This is what sparked the second groundbreaking discovery in the 2019 paper. Just where inside the brain are the DMT enzymes found?
The two enzymes which are responsible for DMT synthesis occur in the same nerve cell, which is the final or the next to the final step in, definitively saying DMT is synthesized in the mammalian brain.
We were the first group, to my knowledge, to really emphasize or look for the two enzymes being present in the same cells at the same time. So we reasoned, though, that you need both of those enzymes to take tryptophan to DMT. If the same cells are expressing those enzymes, that the likelihood of DMT synthesis is much stronger in those areas. What we found was that the brain was one of the hotter sites of co-localization of the two DMT genes.
Dr. Dean found expression levels of both enzymes in the pineal gland, choroid plexus, and throughout the cerebral cortex.
We found very high expression of the DMT biosynthetic genes in that area where the cerebrospinal fluid is made.
Cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, is a colorless liquid produced inside the ventricles of the choroid plexus in order to supply nervous system tissue with nutrients, protect the brain from trauma, and carry away metabolic waste. We talked to one of the world's leading cerebrospinal fluid researchers, Dr. Mauro Zapatera, a medical doctor who also received his PhD from Harvard University, focusing on the significance of CSF in brain development.
I was looking at this section of a human brain at 8 weeks in development. And inside that space was this cauliflower-like structure. And it was huge. It was ginormous compared to the size of the developing cortex. And I turned to my colleague and I said, "What is that structure?" And he said, "That's the choroid plexus." I said, "Wait, if that produces CSF and it's so large, the CSF must have an important role in development." There was a teacher who was teaching us craniosacral therapy. We hold various areas of the body, mostly the cranium and the sacrum, and we assess for subtle pulsations that are occurring in the tissues, in the energy field, but also in the cerebrospinal fluid. And then he made a comment that, the cerebrospinal fluid is one molecule away from seawater. And I entered this, I'm sort of a skeptic with many things, and so I entered this with skepticism. And so I started that evening, I remember going home and looking up what the cerebrospinal fluid was. And I realized that there was not much current research going on in this fluid. It's dispersed throughout the ventricles. It even bathes the outside of the brain, and it goes down the middle of our spinal canal in the central canal, and it bathes our entire spinal cord. Essentially, if something gets dropped into this fluid, it can be dispersed through the entire brain. And so I wanted to see, has DMT ever been shown to be in the cerebrospinal fluid? And it actually has.
Another hypothesis is that breathing exercises can induce an increase in DMT in the brain, causing the visionary experiences that many have claimed are very similar to psychedelics.
Could breath work affect the cerebrospinal fluid pulsations that affect the way that cerebrospinal fluid is generated? It's a signal to the choroid plexus to produce more of a certain compound, possibly DMT.
While visionary experiences induced by breathing exercises have been reported for thousands of years, there's a man from Holland who has recently taken this concept to a whole new level. Wim Hof is a Dutchman who holds 26 Guinness World Records for superhuman feats that defied the science of its day. And his breath practice has transformed millions of lives across the world.
We now know through research that respirations are actually being shown to affect cerebrospinal fluid movement.
Letting go of the mind, follow the flow, pull the air, letting go, pull the air, letting go, pull the air.
After about 100 or 200 of these deep breaths is when I say, okay, and now fully in. Hold and bring the cerebrospinal fluid to the head. And then suddenly the brainstem, the hippocampus, amygdala, epiphysis, it gets all so much blood flow, so much neural activity that it releases, that it opens up. It's amazing what happens. Human beings are capable of anything. That sounds mystical. And that is mystical because we have to learn to shut up and get into the depth of the brain where neurology meets the purpose of life. What is DMT and what is the significance of DMT in our lives? Visible, tangible, and usable. Because DMT is very important, only nobody knows. In the end, we are the alchemists, and we are able to metallize our hormones into DMT too.
It's not definitively proven that breathwork can produce an increase in endogenous DMT, but barely anyone believed humans could control their immune or autonomic nervous system until Wim proved it in a study published in the prestigious journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And Wim was making those claims decades before the science caught up.
I am interested, deeply interested into the DMT exploration through scientific validation, because it's there to create neural pathways into those areas thought of inaccessible, only done by exogenous intake of ayahuasca, DMT, and all those things. And from there, I began to experiment. I had no money. I had to do it with where I was. And I found a way, absolute doorway into the depth.